Okay, so part two. Okay, so what I want to talk to you about is adaptation frameworks in assistive technology. So, I mean, really we're talking about being the individual being able to adapt to tasks and the environment that they're in. So that's kind of what this setup provides us. So, if we take a look at the law and the foundations of law, we talk about IEPs under IDEA. IEP teams must consider students' needs for AT and services so that the students can receive a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. So key factors there, we're looking at individual technology needs. So we're matching the individual and the technology, and that AT must help the student meet demands of school and expectations within that setting. So we talk about setting specific demands, okay? Okay, so therefore, under IDEA, the function of assistive technology is to be service specific to individual needs in helping them adapt to their environment. So hence, why adaptive technology and assistive technology are synonymous. They mean the same thing. In Canada, we actually use the term adaptive technology rather than assistive technology. Adaptations, because we're talking about an adaptation framework. So what adaptations we need to make to the environment and several other features. So we can talk about adaptations of teaching procedures. Well, we kind of talked about that with universal design, right? So we need multiple paths of input. We need visuals, we need auditory, we need different ways of getting the information to the student. We can talk about curricular adaptations, right? So we can talk about adapting curriculum. So before I gave you the recycling example, right, that's actually a modification in that case to curriculum. We can talk about adaptations of management. So, we create some kind of token economy system where the student, they receive a reward for each good behavior they exhibit. And then after they save up all those rewards, they can trade them in on some material thing. We can talk about adapting materials. So making larger size font, printing material on different color paper, or enlarging the paper size, etc. We can talk about using technology. So we could use a closed circuit television system in which the student can amplify or magnify their material if they have visual impairment, amongst many other technology interventions that we can use and adaptations we can use. We can also talk about adaptations to the physical environment. For instance, building a ramp, lifting up desks on 4 bricks so the student can wheel underneath it. So IEP teams generally are also the ones that are getting together to make decisions about adapting and adopting assistive technology. So there's many questions that are usually asked. So how can assistive technology devices and services enable the student to receive free and appropriate public education? How can AT devices and services enable the student to receive an education in the least restrictive environment? How can AT enable the student to access the general education curriculum and receive fully IEP goals and short-term objectives? How do the features of the device match the needs and strengths of the student? And that's important. When we talk about functional limitations, we usually focus on that to a great deal, but we also have to focus on functional strengths of the student as well. How can the use of the device and services be monitored to ensure successful implementation and benefits of the student? The answer really is by going and moving towards an adaptive framework. Or an adaptations framework, which includes the process of considering, then selecting, and then evaluating, an ongoing evaluation of how the device is doing and meeting the needs of the individual. What I always prescribe is to use the SET framework. So the SETT acronym stands for Student, Environment, Tasks, and Tools. This is a collaborative meeting format in which the IEP team, hopefully with the parent and the student, would sit down at a table, and what you do is on a whiteboard you draw 4 columns, and you put student characteristics in the first column, environmental characteristics in the second column, tasks that need to be performed, and then finally the last column is tools, and usually that one remains vastly empty. And then you go through a brainstorm activity. So each individual at the table is given 2 yellow sticky notes for each category. So one for student, one for environment, one for task, one for tools. So they're each given 2 sticky notes for each. So that would be 8. Then they're given 1 other color sticky note for each category. So for instance, a blue one. And that's the most important one, what they deem to be the most important thing, that characteristic or issue that needs to be addressed for each category. So then everybody goes about writing student characteristics, what they know about the student. So for instance, for the school psychologist, they might write the IQ level, they might write down the achievement gap that's been noted. There might be social observations if they've done observation in the classroom. The parent will make some unique observations of their child and student characteristics, what they see about the environment, and what they believe that the student needs to do in terms of tasks. Tasks really relate to IEP tasks, the goals that we're setting for the most part, so what the student needs to be able to do. The environment, we're talking about what's usually not working in the environment, the students not making it from one class to another because the halls are busy. Okay, and in student characteristics, we're talking about specific strengths and limitations of the student or weaknesses of the student. Okay, so then we put all these together and then we document this, and then we prioritize as a group. Why bother using an adaptive framework? Well, the problem is people abandon very expensive assistive technology devices at a fairly high rate from several reasons, but mostly relate to the fact that all the characteristics of the individual, the environment, and the tasks that need to be done aren't taken into account before selecting the final category, and that's tools. Obviously, things work better when tools, devices, and services are based on matching tech to the individual then. There are many problems with implementation that also occur. Time, so being able to get all the individuals, the stakeholders in the room at the same time for collaborative thinking might be an issue, and that's why in part 3 we're going to talk about the way we push paper around as assessment to gather information when we can't get everybody together in the same room at the same time. Familiarizing staff with frameworks, and principally complex frameworks, can be a problem because you really don't want to have to do staff development for them to understand a process to be able to get the information you want to gather on behalf of the student. Personalities can also be an issue. In my career, I heard this one, usually from people that were a year or two away from retirement. I'm going to retire next year, and I don't need to waste my time learning about newfangled gadgets. I'm referring to assistive technology. So it's not about the student, it's about them and not wanting to have to do anything else. Okay.